What's up, y'all? Well, it's been a minute, but we are back. Super excited for what we have for you guys today. We're going to be, just got done doing the fruits of the Spirit, so we're going to be going through the beatitudes, which are something I haven't heard a lot of teaching on in a long time. So it's something one of the first really passages of the Bible that I was familiar with as a child. It was one that Mom, I remember, had us do a lot of memorization with, and so I remember writing things down and doing some studies on it, and so we're going to dive into the Beatitudes, and so with that, if you have your Bible with you, which I hope you do, just going to flip to Matthew 5, and so this is the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. A lot of you guys are familiar with the Sermon on the Mount. It's the first big time that Jesus went and gave like a full sermon. Huge deal. There was tons of people there, and we're going to be starting in verse 3, which is the first beatitude, so I'll go ahead and read it for us. It says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So, I don't know about you, but so the poor in spirit being like the idea of those who are understanding of their need for God. So when you're poor in spirit, you have this kind of, I don't know if, it's not really melancholy though, and so it's like, I think we think of poor as something bad, but in here it's like you're understanding that you lack so much without God. And so when you're poor in spirit, right, yeah. So being humble,
you are bankrupt without God.
And that would make you what? Poor. Bankrupt people are poor. And so I like this idea because theirs being the kingdom of heaven. I think really when I read this and started kind of listening to stuff on it, the big thing that stood out to me was the idea of just the countercultural, which I know is something I talk about a lot and a lot of people talk about a lot, it's true, but just that countercultural life that we're supposed to live. Like when you are poor, and I think I don't know because I wasn't there and Jesus didn't tell me specifically, but I would be willing to bet that he used the term poor because he knew the fact that we all desire to be rich and we all desire to have fame and wealth. And so that idea of being poor as the people who will inherit it. And so it's like when you start to lower yourself and just completely rely on God and be dependent on God, that's when you start to inherit the kingdom. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think it's not necessarily a lowering of yourself as in I'm terrible.
Right.
And I'm worthless.
Right. Yeah.
It's coming to the throne in a humble estate, that verse, it says we can approach the throne of grace with confidence, but we also are humbled because we can't do it ourselves. We have to go to this throne of grace,
right?
And so it's not lowering ourselves and making ourselves poor because we're worthless and terrible and we've done all these bad things and all that kind of thing, because if that's your view, it's really sad. Right. And I'm sorry. But I think that, as Christians, we're not held to those. We're not held to our past. We're not held to our mistakes. We're not held to those lies that the enemy says. And so the poor in spirit is a dependency on God. That's, I think, joyful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing that I am bankrupt. There's a For King and Country song.
Of course there is.
Yes. Of course. And again, I'm blanking on the words because it's one of their really old songs, but it's just saying that he was bankrupt without love, and how love is above else. You have to love first, and so you're bankrupt without God because he is love. And so that's kind of what it made me think of at first.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and I liked it because as I was reading it, and one of the things from John Piper that I was listening to talked about it, and for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is an inheritance almost that they're looking forward to, and for a lot of people, you have to wait for your loved one to die to then get the inheritance. And what he was talking about was the idea of Jesus talking about this. This isn't we're waiting to inherit the kingdom when we die. We are inheriting the kingdom now. We have ours is the kingdom of heaven. When we rely on God, we get the kingdom of heaven even today and now. And it's just really funny because obviously we've been going through a lot with getting plugged in with the Wells youth and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it's just that idea of seeing the kingdom now. like seeing God's provision when we were in a lot of confusion. I feel like we've been so busy since getting back to Wichita, and I've seen God's provision through that. And it's like, I think for me, it's been like a call to get back on my grind of working for the kingdom. Like, because I feel like sometimes we look at, doing kingdom work as something that you shouldn't see as a grind, because then you're not valuing it enough, or whatever you want to say. But to me, like, it is. Like, it takes a lot of work. And I think I got out of that work mindset. And so it feels good to realize that when I go back to depending on God instead of trying to, just let everything happen, it's like I depend on God, so I put in what I can do and I let God do the rest. But it's like depending on God isn't just sitting on the couch and waiting for God to throw you into an amphitheater in front of people to talk about God. Like, that's not how it works. Like, depending on God is living your life completely for God. And I think that's how I see it. Like, the poor in spirit are those who, like, when a lot of my friends look at me and the choices I make and the lifestyle I live and what I do with a lot of my nights, it's like, well, that doesn't seem very fun. That doesn't feel like you're living life to the fullest, whatever you want to call it. But I was like, when you're in the Word and you're studying, and then I get to talk about it and teach people, like, that to me is my inheritance. Like, that's where I'm getting the kingdom of heaven, because I'm choosing to do what earthly people would see as lowly, kind of dumb things, wasteful things.
You have a kingdom mindset.
Right. And I think, to me, like, this verse is just, the poor in spirit are those with a kingdom mindset. Because even though we feel poor in this world, oftentimes what we're doing is we're living the kingdom now, so that we can then dwell in the kingdom forever.
I also think a part of that is we're poor in spirit, and we can be sad because sometimes we're alone when we do those things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is sad because we do stand by ourselves, or we do have people leave or whatever, and it is hard to say no, or whatever the situation is. And so I think the poor in spirit also comes from a sadness for the lost.
Right.
And the people that you see that are spiritually dead, or not there, or don't even believe in God. And so I think the poor in spirit, I mean, it is a sadness for the lost.
Right.
So I think there's lots of different aspects of it.
Yeah. Well, and kind of flip back around to what we had talked about a little, like, about the inadequacy, and how you were saying, like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the idea. Going back to that, I think it's something that I find very interesting, because C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity, talks about the greatest sin is pride, because pride is rooted in all of sin. And as I thought about that, it's like that idea of, even when you're self-pitying, it's still pride. Like, saying, oh, I'm terrible, I'm awful, still often stems from pride, because you're still just thinking about yourself, because that's all pride is, putting yourself first. And I don't know, we went and watched Inside Out, that Inside Out 2, and just like that scene when it's like, oh, like, I'm terrible, like, I'm not enough. I'm just like, how many of us are truly doing that self-talk all the time? Like, how many of us are the ones who are actually destroying ourselves more than we realize, just with self-talk, because we are getting in that prideful mind state. Instead of being poor in spirit, we're being depressed in spirit. It's like he's not saying be sad and annoying in spirit. He's being poor. It's like realizing that you have an inadequacy, but then turning around and attaching it to the Lord. And it's a very funny verse, because I think it's something that not a lot of people are rushing to talk about, the poor in spirit verse. It's not probably like a locker room one, but I don't know, I think about that, like, there's no NFL speeches with blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But to me, like, this is more encouraging than anything, because it's every day when I'm like, man, I feel like I'm putting in so much work and I don't see it right now. It's the realization of, I am seeing it if I would open my eyes and actually look at things differently. Like, if I look through it with the right lens, all of a sudden, I actually am
very rich.
Yeah, very rich. I don't know. That's how I saw it. I think that was the big thing for me.
Yeah. And I think, reading through all of them, even though we're only talking about the first one.
Cheating.
I'm going to cheat. I just think it's interesting, because I think, and maybe this is me saying something that is well known and not really revelation, but anyways, I think he's listing out different kinds of believers. Like, you have people that have a heart for God, and have a heart for the lost. And it does make them sad. Now, not depressed and like I'm terrible, but you have the poor in spirit that have that heart for the lost. And then you have the people that are good at just mourning with people, good at just sitting with people, good at just being with people. And then you have the Christians that are meek, that are peaceful. You have the Christians that, like, you can go through the whole list. And so I think, and maybe this is me just taking liberties, but I think it's cool to think about it in different kinds of Christians in different parts of the body.
Yeah.
Like, you need every part of the body for your life to function. Just like spiritually, you need every part of the body to function. And one's not better than the other.
Yeah.
And so...
And I think that ties back to what we talked about with the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Like, they all
come
connect.
together.
Well, and some people are better at others. Like, some people are better at self-control than me. And some people are better at, who knows what. It's funny, man. Since that self-control, I've been kicking myself all the time. Like, come on. Self-control's important.
I think that's funny. Okay, so today, the pastor that was preaching, he said something about how when you've been convicted, that's God pruning you. That's God teaching you.
Right.
And I think he's been pruning you.
Yeah, well.
And so, like, when he convicts you, I think that's him growing you and having those fruits of the Spirit thrive and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I liked what he said this morning, because he was talking about how, like, all of a sudden when he started reading the Bible, all of a sudden what he read pops up in day-to-day things. Mm-hmm. I think that's so true. Like, if you watch a TV show, like, all of a sudden you can connect that TV show to whatever you're doing. And it's like, when you read the Bible, all of a sudden, we're going to read the poor in spirit, and then we're going to have these moments where we're like, oh, this perfectly connects. Yeah. Oh, here's the kingdom. Oh, here's me being poor in spirit. You will catch yourself seeing this throughout your life when you start to read it. And I think that's I think that's why it's so impactful, is because you really do start to see everything once you actually start getting into it. So, I like that. Do you have anything else you really liked? Awesome. Well, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you for bearing with us once again. Hopefully, we can be better at this. Our Wednesdays are going to be a little more normal now, because we have joined the Well Worship Center's youth team, and so we're leaders now with the Well Worship Center, where we've been going to church for a little while, and I got to give my first message Wednesday, which was super cool.
Fantastic.
I had a lot of fun. I get to do a couple more for sure with the middle school, and we are just kind of along for the ride. So don't really know what the future looks like there or what the plans are, but we're here to help, and so we're there wherever they need us, and God can just work however he needs to. But we're really excited. I am personally extremely excited to get to doing these more often. But I love you all, and I hope this encourages you guys. As we go through these beatitudes, I hope you guys learn something. I hope you're able to start applying this, kind of like Lenan said, I hope you're starting to realize who you are, and then not only leaning into who you are, but also looking at the other ones where you can maybe struggle or not do as well, whether it's the beatitudes, the fruits of the Spirit, and you can start applying those better into your life. So that's my hope for you all. And I have a fantastic for this week, because Benjamin William-Hastings just put out Set Me on Fire, which is a new song. So we got a new song for our which I'm very excited for, because it's a banger. So Benjamin William-Hastings continues to be undefeated, and I love him. Wish I could give him a hug in person. That's all I have. So we love you all. If you have any prayer requests, let us know. But have a wonderful week, and we will see you guys soon. Deuces.